If you're a dancer or performer and you have absolutely no idea how to structure your workouts, maybe you're going to the gym and you haven't been seeing any progress, or you're completely new to all of the strength and conditioning side of it and you want to know where to start, well, this video is for you. So at Prime to Perform, we help a whole range of performers, from drama school students to leads in the West End, puppeteers, cruise ship dancers, whole variety of different people, and this is generally how we structure our sessions for our clients. Of course, it goes without saying that a personalized program is going to be so beneficial for you. So this is a generic run through of how we normally would program things for clients, but inevitably things come up, people have different goals, different things that they need to work on, different imbalances, injuries, all of those things play into it. Of course they do. So not every single person's program, not every single one of our clients' programs will be structured in this exact way. And if you are looking for some one-to-one support, then why not reach out to us and we can give you a good idea of how we would structure a session for yourself. We're always here to help and support. So even if the program isn't something that you're looking to do at the moment, but you just have some general questions about training or about nutrition or about performance in general, then as always, feel free to reach out. We're most active on Instagram. We are on TikTok as well, but we very rarely use that. So head over to Instagram and feel free to pop us a DM. So to go over our general structure, firstly, we need to warm up. Obviously, we need to warm up. We like to do warm-ups in a few different sections. So normally, when we program for a client, we'll get you just to get on a cardio machine for normally around 3 to 5 minutes. This is simply to increase your heart rate. It's to increase synovial fluid in your joints. It's to just get that blood pumping, kind of get you acclimatized to being in the gym and just getting you nice and warm. So nothing really to overthink there. Literally get in, hop on the treadmill, hop on the bike, do some rowing, or the assault bike is always a really good one as well. Obviously, you compare this as well to the type of day that you're going to do. So if you're going to do a lower body day, we wouldn't recommend going and doing it on the ski erg. You might as well do some bike or some rowing or something like that. That's going to get the blood flowing to your lower body muscles a little bit more. But again, nothing to kind of overthink there. And again, if you're cycling to the gym or if you're running to the gym or something like that, then you can go in and you can skip that section. Just 3 to 5 minutes getting your body moving. We then typically like to go into what we would call our prime and prep section. And this is a section where we get to extend the warm up. We get to make it a little bit more specific for the session ahead and also specific for our clients' goals. So for example, if you know that you want to bring up your core work, great place to kind of throw some more core work in. On a lower body day, we're probably going to think about opening up the hips. We're probably going to think about mobilizing the ankles a little bit more. Again, firing up your glutes. Maybe you do some single leg glute bridges, or maybe we're doing some more core activation drills. Upper body stuff, you're probably going to want to look at opening up the shoulder joint, maybe some dumbbell external rotation work there. Again, if you're really tight in your lats, or if you've got tight chest or triceps or something like that, you could do some myofascial release. You could do some, generic kind of mobility exercises. Again, if we're doing more hinge based today, maybe you want to kind of fire up your hamstrings a little bit more, or activate your glutes, do some banded clamshells, something along those lines. Normally, how we would structure that is just 3 different exercises, nothing too crazy in terms of rep scheme or anything like that. Normally 8 to kind of 12-ish reps. We're not looking to particularly like get a hypertrophy stimulus from this. We're not trying to like build muscle or anything like that. We're just looking to activate as much as we possibly can. You can also do the similar movements to what you're going to be doing in the session ahead, so mimic that movement, but with a lighter weight. So for example, if you're going into doing some barbell back squats, you could just do some knee over toe squats, for example, with a dumbbell, just to get you into that squat pattern, to kind of teach your body to kind of push those knees over the toes. You could do something along those lines. Again, if you're doing some deadlifts, you can maybe do some kettlebell RDLs or some kettlebell swings, something along those lines. Again, mimicking the type of movement you're going to be doing later on in that session. Then we would typically go into more of our power work or our skill-based work. So when you're nice and fresh, when your brain is really activated, your body's really activated, that's when we can do some more of the dynamic movements and our skill-based stuff. So within this section, normally we're looking at developing explosive power, typically through the use of plyometrics, and developing harder skills that take more concentration and coordination. It's where we also include exercises that are more specific for performers that we are programming for. So for example, again, if you have an injury or you need to build up a certain kind of muscle group, then we will focus on that now. But yeah, typically for us, lower body might be some more plyos. We might do some more power work. So we might be moving into more of our Olympic lifting side of stuff. Again, awesome way to build that explosive power for leaps and jumps is to look at Olympic lifting, to look at your elasticity, so more plyometrics. So this is where we really focus on that. Then we typically go into our main compound lifts. So these are things like your squats, your deadlifts, your pull-ups, your lunges, bench press, anything that is using multiple muscle groups across multiple joints. All performers should be refining and training these main movement patterns. And again, depending on your training experience, depending on where we are in a training cycle, anywhere from kind of 1 up to 12 to 15-ish reps here. That's where we're going to get a large stimulus for hypertrophy, typically between 5 and 15 reps. But with more advanced clients, or if we're working towards a certain 5 rep max or 3 rep max or 1 rep max, that will dictate what kind of rep range we're using, what kind of tempos we're using, what our rest periods look like, if we're supersetting it, something like that. But all of us should be training those main compound lifts. They are the bread and butter of sport and of athletic development. So whether you're a dancer, whether you're an aerialist, whether you're not in the performing world at all and you're a tennis player or a footballer, we all should be training those main compound lifts. So we need to include them, and we include them near the start of the session so that we are nice and fresh for them. They are super, super important. If you are limited on time and you just need to get into the gym, you need to get some like compound lifts done and then get out. Again, it's really important. It's those movements where we are training multiple muscles, something like a squat. We're going to be training our quads, our glutes, our core is going to be fired up. Our back muscles are going to be working. We're going to get some hamstring activation, some calf activation. So in that one exercise, in that squat, we're training so many muscle groups. So it's such a good bang for your buck exercise. If you are tight on time, perfect. Get some of those big compound lifts in and then get out of there. With training in general, we typically like to look at a training cycle. So for us at Proud to Perform, we find that doing a testing week in kind of week 1, so you pick a few different exercises that you want to look at. You could again do a 1 rep max, 3 rep max, 5 rep max. You could be looking at your 5K time in terms of conditioning, or like a 2K row time trial, something along those lines. You could be looking at your splits progressions, but doing a little testing, knowing where your base is in week 1 is really important. Typically then we move into around 7, 8, 9 weeks of training where we're still progressing week by week. We can improve or progress our weights, the tempos, the type of the technicality of the exercise, so we can make the exercise actually harder. We can look at supersetting things. We can look at adding drop sets in, loads of different training stimulus to progressively overload. But we'll do that for kind of 7, 8, 9-ish weeks, and then we retest at the end. So we see how much strength we've built, how much more conditioning we've built, how much faster we are, how much our flexibility has improved, all those kind of metrics. It's really nice to do a little baseline testing, do a bunch of training and then retest, and then you can see that progression. So with that being said, these kind of generic workouts that we're going through here, it's much more detailed, it's much more specific depending on what the client's goals are. But Typically within our compound lifts, our compound section, it is anywhere from all the way down to 1 rep maxes, especially in our testing weeks, depending on, again, exercise history, depending on how comfortable you are in the gym, depending on what your goals are, all the way up to about 12 to 15-ish reps. After that compound section, we typically then go into more accessory-based work and more circuit-based stuff. Here the reps can vary. We can be looking at pushing the reps up even more if needed, if muscular endurance is a main goal for you, or we can still keep them relatively low if we're trying to build strength, looking for more hypertrophy stimulus. We also like to start using some more like lateral movements. We like to start incorporating some more aerobic work, some more core work, maybe some more performer specific drills. So something like on a lower body day, for example, you might have gone in, you've done your warm up, you've done your kind of prime and prep section, you've done your compound lifts. So let's say we were doing some back squats, and then maybe in this next section, you want to continue to get some more quad and glute work in, and we could do it something like a knee over toe split squat. So with that exercise, we're really looking at pushing that knee as far over the toe as we possibly can. Great for targeting the quad, but then also very good for opening up our hips and being in that deep range of motion. So again, we can make it slightly more performer specific. We can use more of an EMOM or an AMRAP style section, but typically we like just doing some more accessory based stuff, adding in some supersets maybe to save a little bit of time. Again, always making sure that we are pushing close to that failure point. Then the next kind of section, again, we're probably going to want to look at pushing some more aerobic work, maybe some more lactate threshold or some more pump-based exercises, normally where we're focusing on a little bit more of our metabolic conditioning. So again, maybe we're looking at more like AMRAPs or EMOMs, or we're looking at maybe doing some intervals on the treadmill or the rowing machine or something like that. So this is more of our finisher-based stuff, really kind of pushing our body, seeing how much effort we can put in before lactic acid kind of sets in and stops us from working any harder. Again, because this is a generic kind of walkthrough, it's hard to say exactly what we would be doing, but normally some intervals, if not maybe some higher heart rate kind of circuit based training is normally what we like to go with in our finishers, just to raise that heart rate, to get some conditioning work in there. And then of course we like to have a nice stretch and strengthen, or a nice cool down section. Here we're not only looking to increase flexibility but also mobility, allowing us to become stronger in our end ranges of motion, and of course to reduce injury risk. So we won't just give you a kind of generic stretch. We like to try and add weight to stretches. We like to try and become really strong in those deep ranges of motion. So again, we love doing stuff like a weighted long lunge hold or some butterfly pulses, something like that. We love doing kettlebell Jefferson curls. Again, really using our body, using our muscles. So not only are we training that flexibility, but we're also training the body's ability to go into those deep ranges of motion and then come out of them safely. So with our cool downs, with our stretches, we normally pick 3 to 4-ish exercises. We do a few rounds of those, holding them anywhere from around 20 seconds up to around a minute normally. Again, depends on what that client needs. But we also, again, love doing stuff like holding a long lunge hold, taking that and holding a weight whilst doing it. You would hold that for maybe 30 seconds or so. So that's going to really activate those muscle spindles, and it's really going to activate our muscles. Then when we can drop that weight, we are able to get into a deeper stretch. We almost desensitize that muscle spindle a little bit, so then we could go into that deeper split than what we would potentially be able to do before. Very similar to kind of PNF stretching. You might have done that in dance colleges or drama schools, where, let's take the hamstring one for example. You're lying on your back with your leg up and you push into someone's hand, and then as you relax, your hamstring can go further. Very, very similar to that kind of PNF stretching. All we're doing is kind of holding a weight, making sure we're really muscularly engaged. Then as we drop that weight, we can get into deeper ranges of motion. So typically we would do that, kind of good to lower the heart rate as well in that cool down, And that's typically how we finish our training sessions. Again, we always like to add mobility throughout, so a lot of our big strength exercises, especially more of our accessory-based movements, we would love to include things like Cossack squats, where we're really looking at, yes, building strength, but equally, can we get into those deep ranges of motion? Can we open up the hips, etc.? And so there we have it. That is typically how we would structure a gym training workout for our performers. We get in, we raise the heart rate, a couple of minutes of some cardio piece. Then we would go into our prime and prep section, really good for activating, for potentiating our nervous system, for making sure we are super engaged, we're ready for the session ahead. Great to add some more plyometrics in there to get some tendon elasticity as well. Then we go into anything skill-based or anything power-based, again, more plyos, more Olympic lifting-based stuff, or more generic kind of power training. Then into our compound lifts, then into accessories, superset stuff, again, kind of accessory movements depending on what type of session we are doing, and then typically into some more finisher based stuff, maybe some more circuit based work as well, and anything else that we may have missed off. Again, if you wanted to bring up your calf strength or something like that, you could add in a bit more calf work, or if you wanted to work on your core even more, again, great to add some more core work into those accessory and finishers, and then of course a nice stretch and strengthen at the end. That is typically how we would structure it. Again, it's really hard to give you like rep schemes for everything, because it really is dependent on what our training goal is over that training cycle and what a performer client needs to specifically work on themselves. But yeah, the kind of lower rep stuff typically at the beginning of our sessions. So the skill-based stuff, the power-based work, our compound lifts, you might be looking at maybe more like 1 to 8 reps, 1 to 10 reps. The accessories, the supersets, the finishers, you might be looking at slightly more than that, maybe going up to more like 15 reps. Basically anywhere between that 5 and 15 rep mark, as long as the last few reps are really slowing down, you know you're at a good stimulus point for building muscle, for building strength, for building conditioning. So that's where we have an involuntary loss of velocity. Very, very simple. Say you're doing a bench press and a dumbbell bench press, and the last few reps, you're really slowing down, not because you are slowing down, but because you are recruiting as many muscle fibers as possible, and the rep is slowing down, we're getting loads of mechanical tension. If that kind of rep is slowing down, we know we've got to that stimulus point. So we want to be working to around 2 reps in reserve normally on our strength-based work, and it doesn't really matter where you are in terms of rep ranges from around that 5 up to 15-ish reps. You can go up to about 30 reps, but something like a bicep curl, you're probably okay to do a bunch of 30 reps, but something like a squat, if you end up doing 3 sets of 30 reps, you're just going to burn out. You're much better off just raising that weight up and getting to that stimulus point with a lower rep scheme. So yes, anywhere a kind of lower reps typically at the start of our sessions. More of the power-based stuff is typically quite good to do slightly lower reps. Your compound lifts, your accessories, your more metabolic pump stuff, you're probably going to be pushing up maybe more like 10 to 15-ish reps. Again, conditioning side of stuff really depends on the session, depends on whether we're trying to build up our aerobic system, our anaerobic system, whether we're trying to work some more like lactate threshold work, whether we're just trying to again work on that metabolic conditioning, so maybe just more like strength-based exercises with higher reps. Depends on the session, depends on what the client needs. But that is typically how we would structure a session. So we hope you found that useful. Again, if you are looking for a training plan, if you have specific goals that you want to work on or work towards, or if you feel a little bit stuck within your training, then feel free to reach out. We are more than happy to help. And yes, we will catch you very, very soon.